The night Marcus Webb drove down Route 9 was the night he stopped believing in coincidence. He had been driving for 6 hours straight, somewhere between Baton Rouge and nowhere, the kind of nothing stretch of Louisiana highway where the trees lean too close and the Spanish moss hangs like the hair of something dead. His GPS had given up 40 minutes ago. Not lost signal, not rerouting, it had simply gone dark, like a candle someone pinched between their fingers. The screen black, the little blue arrow gone, and the only sound left was the wet hiss of his tires on the wet black asphalt and the breathing of the engine that seemed, in the silence, just a little too irregular. Marcus was 34 years old. He sold insurance. He had a dog named Pepper at home, a studio apartment in Houston, and a sister in Shreveport he was supposed to be visiting that weekend. He was not the kind of man things happened to. He was careful. He was deliberate. He always checked the weather before a drive and kept a roadside kit in the trunk, and never, not once in his adult life, had he done anything that could be described as reckless. That is what made what happened next so difficult to explain. He saw the girl standing at the edge of the road. She was young, maybe 16, maybe younger, wearing a white dress that was soaked through so completely it looked gray in his headlights. She had dark hair plastered flat against her face, and she was standing perfectly still at the shoulder of the road, one arm extended, thumb up, the way hitchhikers stood in movies from the 1970s. What no one in those movies ever prepared you for was the way a real hitchhiker looks at 2 in the morning on a road with no other cars and no streetlights, when the rain is coming down sideways and she is not shivering, even though she should be. Marcus slowed down. He knew better. Every instinct and every news story and everything his mother had ever told him said to keep driving. But she was a kid. She was alone, and the rain was not stopping. He pulled over. She did not run toward the car the way a relieved person would. She walked, slowly, each step deliberate, like someone who had all the time in the world, or someone who no longer thought in terms of time at all. When she reached the passenger door and he leaned over to unlock it, he had a single clear moment to look at her through the glass and register something wrong, something he could not name, a wrongness that sat below the level of language, and then she was opening the door and climbing in, and the wrongness submerged itself beneath the ordinary logistics of a wet girl getting into a dry car. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was flat. Not monotone in the way of shock, not soft in the way of exhaustion, just flat. Like a voice played back at the wrong speed, and then corrected, almost right, almost human, but the almost was where the problem lived. "Are you okay? What happened? Were you in an accident?" She turned and looked at him. She had pale gray eyes, and she was not, he noticed, actually dripping. He had expected her to soak the seat, to leave puddles, but the water on her dress seemed to have stopped moving. It just sat there, motionless, the way water in a photograph sits. "I need to get to Hartley Road. Do you know it?" "I don't know this area at all. I'm kind of lost myself. My GPS died. Are you hurt? Do you need me to call someone?" He reached for his phone and found it at 6% battery. Fine, he would use 6%. He would call 911 if he had to. This was a child on the side of the road in the middle of the night. "Don't call anyone." Not a request, not quite. He put the phone face down on the console. "What's your name?" A pause, long enough that he turned to look at her again. She was staring forward through the windshield, and in the sweep of the headlights he could see the trees on either side of the road now clearly. Old cypress, gnarled and enormous, their roots lifting out of the ground like fingers. The Spanish moss moved in the wind and the rain, and it moved wrongly, he thought. It moved like it was reaching rather than swaying. "Claire," she said. "Okay, Claire. Where are your parents? Do you have a phone?" "I don't need a phone." "It's 2 in the morning. You're 16? Another pause. 15. "Okay. Claire, I need you to tell me what happened to you. Did someone hurt you? Did your car break down? Is there someone back there?" He gestured behind them, down the dark road. She turned her head toward him slowly, the way an owl turns its head, too smoothly, no wasted motion, and said, "Keep driving, I'll show you where to turn." Something cold moved through his chest, not metaphorical cold, actual cold, the way you feel it when you open a refrigerator in the dark, a breath of something kept preserved. He was afraid. He knew he was afraid, and he knew it was irrational, and he kept telling himself it was irrational, and he kept driving. The rain intensified. The road ahead narrowed. The trees came closer on both sides until the branches touched overhead, and he was driving through a tunnel of black bark and silver moss, his headlights carving a pale corridor through which the rain fell in absolute sheets. "There," she said. "Turn left." He almost missed it. A dirt road, barely wide enough for the car, unmarked, disappearing immediately into darkness. That's not a road." "Turn left," she said again. "I can't drive down there. My car is not going to make it down that path." "Yes, it will." He should have stopped. He should have said, "I'm going to pull over and call 911 and wait, and you can ride with the police officers." He should have done a dozen things. Instead, he turned left, and the rational part of him watched this happen with a kind of distant, dreaming horror, the way you watch yourself do something stupid in a dream and cannot stop. The dirt road was worse than it looked. Potholes that jarred his teeth, fallen branches that scraped the undercarriage, and on either side the trees pressed so close that the wing mirrors were nearly brushing bark. There were no sounds from outside anymore, he realized. Not rain on leaves, not wind, not insects. Just the engine and the creak of his suspension and the breathing from the passenger seat, slow and absolutely even, the kind of breathing that belongs to deep sleep or to something that never needed sleep and is only performing it. "Where are we going?" he asked. "Home," she said. "Your home?" She did not answer. They had been on the dirt road for maybe 4 minutes when the headlights caught the house. It emerged from the darkness the way things emerge in nightmares, gradually, wrong in its proportions first, and only clarifying into wrongness of specific detail as you got closer. It was an old plantation house, or it had been once. 2 stories, white paint gone gray and peeling, columns at the front that had sunk unevenly into the earth, so the whole porch leaned. Every window was dark. The front door was open. Marcus stopped the car. "This is not where you live," he said. "I used to live here." You look at her. Her hands were folded in her lap, very still, and her gray eyes were fixed on the house with an expression he could not read, because it was not quite any expression he had a name for. Not longing, not grief, not anticipation. Something older, something that had outlasted the ordinary vocabulary of feeling. "Claire," he said, carefully, "I need you to be honest with me. Are you in danger?" She turned to look at him, and she said, "Not anymore." There was something in her voice when she said it, something that vibrated at a frequency he felt in his back teeth, in his knuckles, in the soles of his feet. Not anymore. 2 words, but they landed in his chest like stones in still water, and the ripples spread and spread. "I'm going to call for help," he said. He picked up his phone, 3% battery now. He unlocked it with a shaking thumb and opened his contacts, looking for his sister's number. And when he looked up, Claire was gone. The passenger seat was empty. The door was closed. He had not heard it open. He had not heard it close. He had not heard footsteps or felt a draft or registered any physical evidence of departure. She was simply no longer there, the way a word stops existing in the moment you stop thinking it. And on the passenger seat, where she had been, was a handprint. Just one, left hand, small, the size of a teenage girl's hand. But the handprint was wrong. It was not wet, though she had been soaked. It was not pressed into the upholstery the way a living person's weight would press it. It was white, white and dry, like chalk, like ash, like the handprints left by something that had no warmth left to transfer. Marcus Webb sat in his car at the end of a dirt road in Louisiana at 2:15 in the morning, and he looked at the white handprint on his passenger seat, and he understood with the specific clarity that arrives when it is already too late to be useful, that Claire had not been hitchhiking. She had been leading. He threw the car in reverse. The engine stalled. In the silence that followed, before he could turn the key again, he heard something from the house. From the open door, from the dark interior of that rotting, leaning, long-dead house, a sound he had heard once before in his life, at the funeral of a child. A sound that did not belong to daytime or to ordinary grief, but only to the rawest possible places inside a human being. Someone inside the house was crying. A child, a girl, crying softly, steadily, the way you cry when you have been crying so long it has become the default state, the baseline, the thing your body does instead of breathing. And then the crying stopped, and something knocked on his window. He turned his head so slowly that he felt each degree of rotation, felt his neck muscles pulling, felt the tendons in his